Hello, my name is David Kim and I am going to do my ISP presentation on the Olympic Games. Firstly, when you talk about the Olympic Games, you must know how the Games started. Well, there are many legends how the Games started. One of the famous one is that Hercules, the famous Greek hero, celebrated his success in the 12 labors with an athletic festival which is now the Olympic Games. Another legend is about Prince Pelops, who is not very well known, wanted to marry a princess called Princess Hippodamia. But he needed to win the chariot race between the princess's father, who was a very good chariot rider. Many people challenged the princess's father because they wanted to marry Princess Hippodamia, but they all lost. But Prince Pelops won, so he celebrated his victory with an athletic festival, which is now the Olympic Games. You can divide the history of the Olympics into basically 3 parts. The first one is the ancient Olympic Games. The second one is the suppression and the revival of the Olympic Games. And the third one is the present Olympic Games. This is a picture of wrestling in the ancient Olympic Games. The first ancient Olympic Games began in 776 BC. They held it in Olympia every 4 years. It had only 10 events and was not widely well known internationally because nowadays it is international, but that time it was only around countries that was around Greece. One of the famous persons who competed in the ancient Olympics is Alexander King I of Macedon. Many people wonder how we can understand about the ancient Olympic Games. One of the major reasons is because of the amphora. The amphora is a pot that has drawings about the situation. We can understand the major parts of the ancient Olympic Games because of them. Also, in the amphora, there are pictures about Greek gods. Greek gods were not real, but they drew pictures of gods watching at the athletes. Greek gods were very important because gods and goddesses were important in the games because it was held in honor of them. Here's a picture of the 1998 Milano Winter Olympics torch. The Olympic torch has liquid fuel inside them so that it would keep on burning. However, we have evidence that in the ancient Olympic Games, they had torch races too. But nowadays, there are liquid fuels inside them, but a long time ago, they didn't. So it was very hard for them to keep on the fire burning. But if they did keep the fire burning and reach the sacrificial altar, it was a great honor if they lit the torch. When I said the word Nagano, that is the host city. Some of you may wonder how they choose the host city. It takes total of many years. Firstly, the country announces that they will bid for the games. Secondly, 9 years before the games, they choose the candidate cities, and for 2 years they did presentations. And 7 years before the games, the countries that are candidate cities did a final presentation, and the International Olympic Committee chooses the host city. I will show a video of you may have saw it recently, so it's in the IOC session. This is the IOC president talking and is ready to announce that the host city, and he is bringing the card that has the name of the host city in it. He is talking about, well, it's a very long word, but he's talking that it will be hosted, the city announcement, this is the announcement. He's the IOC president. And like this, they do this every 2 years. Both winter and the Olympic Games. Both winter and the Summer Olympic Games. history of the Olympics, I talked about the three parts, but there was no medieval Olympics. I talked about the word suppression. Here is a picture of a man named Theodosius I, who was the Roman emperor. Theodosius I suppressed the Olympics. The reason why he did this was to destroy the Greek religion. The Roman Empire was a Christian empire, and the Roman Empire ruled over Greece. And in order to make Greece into a Christian religion, they needed to destroy every single bit of the Greek religion. That is why he suppressed the Olympics, because the Olympics was a tradition of the Greek religion. This happened in 393 AD. Here is a picture of Evangelos Zapas. 1,600 years go by. This man was very important in reviving the Olympic Games. Why? It was because he held a game called the Zapas Olympics. I'm sure nobody knows about the Zapas Olympics because it was not widely well known. They held it only 5 times, but this event eventually became the rule for the Olympic Games. His cousin, Konstantinos Zapas, did a huge part in reviving the Olympic Games, too. When you talk about the Olympic Games and both the revival of the Olympic Games, you must never forget about the International Olympic Committee. The International Olympic Committee was first founded in 1894 by Pierre de Coubertin, the second IOC president. The IOC president is the head of the IOC, which means that the IOC is head of the Olympics and the IOC president is the head of the IOC. So it means that the IOC president is the top of all things that happen in the Olympic Games. If it wasn't for the IOC, we wouldn't be even able to see the Olympics now. 2 years after the IOC was formed, they held the first International Olympic Games in 1896, Athens, Greece. This is the logo for the Olympics. It started out very small. It had only 9 events, 241 athletes, and 14 countries participating. Olympics. If you hear that word, there's always a word that comes connected to it. It is the Paralympics. The Paralympics was first founded in 1948. It was for a doctor named Ludwig Guttmann made a small event for injured people during World War II. It was for disabled people. This event became bigger and bigger, and eventually, in 1960, they hosted the first Paralympics in Rome, Italy. Also, 16 years later, they held the first Winter Olympics in 1976, Ormsköldsvik, Sweden. Recently, they hosted the Sochi 2014 Winter Olympic Games. It developed a lot since the first Olympics. The first Winter Olympics were held in 1924, Chamonix, France. It started out very small, but now in the Sochi Olympics, over 10,000 athletes participated and over 150 countries participated. Also in the London 2012 Games, over 20,000 athletes participated with 150 countries competing each other. The first Athens 1896 Summer Olympics were only 241 athletes. In those 110 years, it developed a huge amount. Here is a picture of an Olympic mascot. This picture shows the Olympic mascot for Barcelona 1992 Summer Olympics. It is called Kobe. Olympic mascot is a mascot representing the Olympic Games. The Olympic mascot represents the cultural heritage of the host city. There are problems in the Olympics, and one of the major ones was this. In 1979, the Soviet Union attacked Afghanistan to gain power. By this, many Afghan people died. Many countries, including the U.S., got mad at the Soviet, and President Jimmy Carter, who was the president at that time, announced that they will not participate in the 1980 Moscow Summer Olympic Games. Together with 65 countries, they boycotted the game, even though they were invited to the games. In response to this, the next Summer Olympics were to be held in Los Angeles, US. So the Soviet got mad and they boycotted the games together with 14 countries, including the communist countries. But it wasn't much compared to the 1980 boycott. You can say that the 1980s were 10 years of a boycott. This is one of the most horrible events that happened in the Olympic Games. It is called the Munich Massacre. In the Munich 1972 Games, a group from Palestine called the Black September Group disguised themselves as athletes and went into the Israeli room. Here's a picture of a member of Black September. This is the best picture to see one of the members. They killed 5 people. They did this because they wanted Palestinian in Israel to be free. A total of 17 people died because of this incident, including the Black September Group. The whole city was in Germany, and Germany had a huge loss after World War II, and the Olympics was a chance to for them, it was a chance to revive them as a good country, but sadly, because of this incident, it is now called the bloodiest Olympic ever. My biblical perspective is about this. Olympics is a chance to glorify God's name. In the earth, athletes run to win. In the Bible, 1 Corinthians 9:24-27, Paul says that it doesn't matter about winning in the race of life. Like this, athletes should not run to win, but to finish the race and make an amazing event. But in the world, people only focuses on those who win. We should respect the athletes who did not do well in the Olympics too. We should not forget that the Olympics is the best athletic festival in the world. This is the end of my presentation.